and welcome to The Skinny for Friday, September 6th. Welcome, everybody. Today, of course, a special day. I'm, of course, Mitch Perry. I should introduce myself, political reporter with the Florida Phoenix. I'm joined by my colleagues, which I am each and every Friday. Ben Montgomery, a longtime reporter, formerly with the Tampa Bay Times and Axios Tampa Bay, and, of course, an esteemed author, and Ray Roa, the editor-in-chief with Creative Loafing. And actually, we're joined by Sean Canan, the WMNF news director. We're going to be fundraising today. If you haven't tuned into WF the last couple of days, it is actually the station's 45th anniversary of being on the air, being supported for 45 years in the Tampa Bay area by listeners like you, contributing to this non-commercial public/community radio station, which you've done for so many years. We're here today for the third time this year, last time this year, that we'll be asking for your contributions. Thank you for listening to us as we've been on the Skinny now for like a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And so today is the day we're going to be playing some sound from some previous interviews, but really it's a celebration, right? It's hopefully you're listening to MNF, and we appreciate that so much. And we need for you to kind of come through for us right now. A dollar contribution of any amount. I think our goal is $1,500, Sean, I'm told today. So that's what we're trying to do. And if we do that, we'll be very happy, and we'll move on our way and be back with regular programming next week. But today it's all about raising funds for this great radio station.
45 years.
Yeah,
that's
just
a long
the phrase.
time. I am 46 years old.
Oh, man,
this
you don't look
station is
46,
1 year younger than me. But Ray, you and I were talking just before coming in here. You were here in high school.
I was. And let me remind people of the phone number. So we want you to call us, 813-239-9663, WMNF.org. You can also do that there. Yeah, my first days in here were as a volunteer, 18 years old. I'm 39 now. And I was in the music library, which is still there, putting tape on CDs, categorizing stuff under the direction of Michael Bagley and Flea, both still here. I was gifted an extra Bob Dylan CD, and that was it for me. I'm like a WMNF diehard after that. But just the phrase, listening to WMNF. There's so many people in their cars, at their house, at work, listening. It's a human-to-human thing, and it doesn't happen. It's, there's like a miracle, in news, but this radio miracle is really real, but it doesn't happen without people contributing to us. So we need to hear from you. As Mitch said, any dollar amount is really great. $5, $10, $15, $20, $100, $200, $300 here. And we have lots of stuff we can give you, right, Sean?
Lots of swag.
Yeah, we have a brand new T-shirt. It's olive green, and it has a design on the front and the back. And the front says WMNF 88.5 FM, radioactive for 45 years. There's the WMNF logo, and inside of it is the 45 RPM record adapter, which I'm told is called a Spider. It's a very attractive shirt. You can take yours away for a $100 donation to WMNF. And before I go too far, I want to thank the last two people who donated during Down and Dirty. Anonymous contributed $50 and says, keep up the good fight from Bicycle Mac, the telephone man. Thank you for that donation. Also, we have a new Circle of Friends member, Teresa Miller, $27 a month on Circle of Friends. So thank you for those people who supported Down and Dirty.
Fantastic.
Now it's your turn to support The Skinny. 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org.
Yeah, and a lot of great gifts that we can provide for our listeners who call in. One of them I'm looking at right now is what we're calling the birthday bundle, which, and by the way, I'm glad you're here, Sean, because I need some definitions about this. There'll be 2 tickets for the birthday celebration, birthday bash, which is going to be next Saturday in St. Petersburg at the
Floridian Social Club.
Okay.
Which used to be the
State Theater.
Okay, right, State Theater on Central. So that is next Saturday night, and you can get 2 tickets for that for a $100 contribution. You also get this license frame that we're offering up, which is a WMNF radioactive for 45 years. That's available. That's available by itself for $45, or it's part of this birthday bundle. And also Cling. What is?
It's like a sticker that you can take on and take off of a window.
Okay, cool. So all of that for $100. But again, next week, that's happening in St. Pete. Celebrate with some of WMNF personalities who will be hanging out next weekend. Again, 45 years. So we're waiting for our first phone call here.
Yeah, we'd love to play some news. 813-239-9663, WMNF.org. Let us know if The Skinny is a show that you like hearing on here, or don't let us know and tell us, We'll find out today at the end of the hour if we need these 3 voices still in this 11 to 12 o'clock slot. But we're excited to be here with you every Friday. week in and week out.
Do you guys remember when we first sat down with Randy to talk about the idea for this show, the roots of it, and how it would come together? That was a major moment for me. I didn't realize how radio worked here before that. And it was my first time sort of stepping into the WMNF studios, getting a sense of who the people were who worked in these hallways and put the programming together. But what a cool thing to be able to step into a triumvirate like this with these great journalists with me. And every week we call onto the carpet to talk to you, the listeners, important people in this community, the movers and the shakers, the people who make the decisions, to ask them who they are, who they represent, to keep them in check, to call them to account occasionally, and to introduce them oftentimes to you, the listeners, people who want to represent us in Tallahassee and in Washington, D.C.
And we should let's thank a donation here. Matt Farmer. He wants to say best to John and Lynn. Keep up the great work. He's getting that 45 years radioactive sticker for $25. And so can you. 813-239-9663, WMNF.org. You know, $25 gets you the magnet or sticker. $35 gets you that great window cling, put on the inside of your back window. Let people know that you're repping and listening to WMNF. That license plate frame is really cool. And that's only $45. You can join the Circle of Friends at $5 a month. That's like painless, right? You can't even get a cup of coffee for $5 a month anymore, and you can
a day.
Yeah, you can't. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. A day.
Come on, what are you buying there? Hey, so we'll go to sound in a minute here. We've had some really fun shows the last few months, and we're going to really step it up with the election coming up. Exactly 60 days from today is November 5th general election, the quote-unquote biggest election of our lifetime, and it's going to be an epic election. And we've been following a lot of this, and I think let's talk about our first sound clip we're going to play here. This was the day after the debate, the Joe Biden-Donald Trump debate that we aired this on June 28th, 2024. And we had set the show up in advance because we wanted to talk about the debate. It was already at the time, like this debate coming up on Tuesday night, it's going to be the biggest event of the year politically, right? So anyway, what you'll be hearing is the voices of 5 different people who were on the show that day, the morning after, starting with Luis Salazar, the president of the Hillsborough County LGBTQ plus caucus, Democratic caucus, and he was a delegate for Joe Biden. Also, St. Pete College professor Tara Newsom, former state Democratic Rep. Lars Hafner, Tampa Bay area young Republican head Brittany Wissey, and Hillsborough County Republican committee woman April Schiff. We were all talking after this seismic event of the debacle, which was the Joe Biden debate, which of course changed his trajectory and the trajectory of the Democratic Party and the trajectory of this presidential race. So, Ray, I think we'll go ahead and just play that right now. So, again, put yourself in mind, this is not an interview that happened yesterday. This is happening the Friday morning, the day after the debate, June 28th, a couple months ago. Let's hear.
I mean, that is just a fantasy world. Joe Biden is not going to step down. Joe Biden is going to run for president, just like we have Donald Trump running for president. It's going to happen, y'all. It's happening now. We are in the race. This is it. If fantasizing about, other candidates coming in, we had candidates that were trying to run in the primary here in Florida. There was an FDP convention that everybody knew about. There are rules to being elected in that convention. If they cared so much about Florida, they should have been here like Joe Biden was.
Lars,
Mitch, this is Tara. And Luis, it's nice to meet you. And I respectfully disagree. The DNC, the Democratic National Convention, has rules to allow for this kind of activity. It's never been done before, but there's 3 pathways that can actually occur. Joe Biden can resign. Joe Biden can just decide not to actually go on and run for re-election. And the delegates can go to the convention and say, hey, we want a better shot at beating Donald Trump, and we need to nominate someone else. So those rules are in place because it's not a fantasy, it's a possibility. And we certainly don't want to see the 25th Amendment invoked upon the current president. And that's what some rumblings are happening, that maybe he's not competent enough to continue in office. And I think last night, to be fair, that seemed like that was a possibility. And so to be nimble and able to win, Democrats might want to look at those 3 pathways, and not to discount the statesmanship of President Biden, because he's certainly a man of service and a man of great integrity. But in order to beat Donald Trump, we may have to look at something else.
invoking the 25th Amendment is something we heard from Democrats back in 2016 to 2020 about the president then, Donald Trump, which is wild. But it is being discussed in some circles right now. In fact, on this show right now. Lars, former Democratic state representative up in Tallahassee from 88 through 2000, elected official here, or former elected official. Give me your thoughts about the potential of another candidate replacing Joe Biden.
Well, I think first and foremost, the Democrats would get their ducks in the order in terms of not invoking the 25th Amendment. They would get Biden to step aside before they would do that, because that would be too chaotic for the party to recover from, and they couldn't go forward and beat Donald Trump. But as I said in the opening, there's a few people who could get to Joe Biden. It could be his wife, of course. She has an influence. His sister would have an influence on him, and maybe one or two other close people around him. But the real pressure will come from either Leader Schumer from the United States Senate or Hakeem Jeffries from the United States House of Representatives. When they feel like their candidates are in trouble, that's where the pressure could come. Because if by chance Biden decided to stay in the race and he was to lose to Trump, the Democrats would need to have one house or the other in order to keep the leadership at bay. And if they feel like they're going to lose both houses and the presidency, that's where the real pressure will come on Joe Biden. But I don't think anybody can do anything but speculate right now. It'll be about a week from now when we see how those polls are going in those swing states of Pennsylvania and of Wisconsin and of Michigan, to see where the president's lining up at that point in time. And then this discussion will either get rocket fuel or it'll begin to die down.
Now, Brittany, you said a moment ago that you were not surprised by how the President Biden performed last night. And it is something, I was saying this to Ray before the show, that conservative figures have talked a lot about. You know, it's a staple of Fox News to say how Biden is so addled and so out of it and what have you. And then, you know, what happened last night happened. I mean, his folks are saying he had a cold and what have you. But there definitely were definitely issues here. Brittany, what do you think? I know, Republicans have also speculated going back to last fall when Gavin Newsom debated Ron DeSantis in Atlanta, or Alpha, I think it's in Georgia, suburban Atlanta, that, Joe Biden would not be the nominee at the end of the day. Is that where you're at with that right now?
Right. So right now, if Joe Biden is the nominee, I think Republicans are in a great place. I mean, from what we saw last night, Donald Trump should be able to beat him, no problem. If they do decide to substitute in a new candidate for Joe Biden, that is where we are going to have some issues. Because if you do put somebody like Gavin Newsom into that position, you're going to see the younger Democrats right now who aren't that energized to vote for Joe Biden. They're going to come out because they're going to see that next generation of leadership. And, being a young Republican, I'm only 28. So seeing both of those men on stage, obviously, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. And we know he's not a perfect candidate, but I just wish that we would get some younger leadership in office. And so, the Republicans having that primary that they had, with Ron DeSantis running and a lot of younger leaders, we're able to see the future of our party. And with the Democrats right now, they don't really have that because they didn't have that primary election. So they weren't really able to see who's coming up, who's next to energize those young voters. So if Joe Biden does stay in office right now, I think he's going to hemorrhage young voters, and it's going to be a big win for Republicans. But if they do manage to get somebody else in that spot, I think, we're going to see a big shift, and it's going to be very dangerous for the Republicans going forward.
April Schiff, to you, are you concerned that the Democrats, again, maybe an unlikely scenario, but somehow the Democrats do get another nominee in there? Are you concerned that could be a tougher matchup for Donald Trump in November?
Well, there's no question. I mean, Joe Biden and his condition that he was in last night is the dream candidate for the Democrats to put up against President Trump. Because right now what we're seeing in the polling is that Trump is running way ahead of Joe Biden. And it's not really the polling that's going to show what happens on the Democratic side. Just follow the money, because when you see the money people start dropping off because of the performance that President Biden put on last night, that's when you're going to see a change in their nominee, because the funding is essential to who the candidate is.
And again, that was an excerpt from June 28th, the day after the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump a couple of months ago. You heard from April Schiff, Republican committeewoman from Hillsborough County, Brittany Lissy from the Tampa Bay Young Republicans, former State Representative Lars Hafner, St. Pete College professor Tara Newsom, and Luis Salazar. And I'm Mitch Perry with Ben Montgomery, with Ray Rowe, with Sean Kinane. We are fundraising here on WMNF, and we have had a few calls here, we can excitedly say here, as we try to raise $1,500 by 12 noon here. Again, you're listening to Skinny here on 88.5 FM, and thank you for listening to us. We are fundraising for this non-commercial public radio station that's been on the air for 45 years, and we've got some people to thank. So, Ben, why don't you start?
Thanking an anonymous donor who gave us $50 and left a comment. Love the show. We thank you very, very much for that donation.
Yeah, it's something they talk about all the time. We're all volunteers here. There's 4 people sitting here. Only one of them is on staff. Your donation helps support Sean, lets him have this army of great reporters in the next room next to us. And then there's me, Ben, Mitch, we're volunteers here. We're just like you. We're obviously reporters, but we're interested in the democratic process. And for 45 years, WMNF has empowered our listeners to do that, right? We have an edict as a nonprofit to be balanced, fair. We get both sides on here all the time. And that information lets our listeners decide who they're going to vote for, decide what political actions they're going to take, protests and things like that. And it's always been like that. And independent voices are few and far between anymore. You know?
Yeah, and you know, the thing is, media landscape has changed so much since when I first worked here in 2000, so much, and yet 88.5 is kind of old school terrestrial radio, if you will, and yet it's still got, 75,000 or 70,000 watts? I mean, it's heard throughout the Central Florida region, and it's an important place here in the media landscape, and so let's keep it going. So we need your financial support. You know, I was taking some phone calls from listeners before I got in here. It's great to talk to the listeners out there, you know, directly. And I know you're out there, and please call if you're listening right now. If you're listening to Skinny right now, I want to thank a couple people who have called in the last few minutes. Let's see, Landon Kastman from St. Petersburg. He wants to say hi to Ray, and he says, you guys are doing great. That is very nice contribution. And then also $50 to the Skinny from Anonymous. And this is, we mentioned this earlier, Bicycle Mac, the telephone man, is
Telephone
back
man
again.
Thank you so much.
So thank you, Bicycle Mac.
And, you know, you hear these names, you know, by the way, the phone number here, 813-239-9663. If you like the internet a little bit more, WMNF.org. Find the Skinny Maker donation. It is great to call in and talk to one of the volunteers, but you hear Landon's name. Landon's a guy that moved here from Chicago. He was working in the media market, and he goes to places like MNF, our newspaper, to get those independent voices, to hear, you know, some news that he's not going to hear anywhere else. And for 45 years, that can't be. I'm 39 years old, and MNF has just been doing it. Whether it was Mitch Perry back there, Sean Kinane, some of the other news directors of the past, there's people in that room out in the community, out there reporting for you, grabbing sound, writing blogs. You know, Mitch mentioned it was old school, but now we got other bills to pay, right? Yeah. We got a YouTube channel. We have all these shows archived. Everything is there. It's a record of what politicians say, what happened. MNF is doing that in this news slot, and we need to know if that's important to you. 813-239-9663. If you support independent, locally produced news, please give us a call here and make a donation.
I met a friend this morning. His name is RJ. He had a wine shop in Pensacola and sold the wine shop, spent a few weeks in Japan, and now he's spending a week at the Safety Harbor Spa just to like relax before he goes back to Pensacola for a minute. He said, what are you doing today we met for coffee at 8 a.m. He said, what are you doing today? He knew I had to leave at 10 to come get ready for the show. What are you doing at the show? And I told him, well, I host a radio show on WMNF, and having no sort of knowledge about the Tampa Bay area, he said, well, what's that? And I said, well, it's a community radio station. You know of WWOZ in New Orleans. And he said, yeah. And I said, you probably heard of WYEP in Pittsburgh. Yeah, absolutely. I love that station. And I said, this is that. It's a reflection of this community. And that's why we're here. We're more than radio. We're your neighbors. WMNF keeps you connected to what's happening here in the Tampa Bay area. The reporters on the ground covering local stories that matter to you, but often get overlooked by larger media outlets. That's what we bring to the table. From city council meetings to community events, we're your eyes and ears on the Tampa Bay area.
And we got somebody else to thank here, Claude and Kay, with a $100 donation. Thank you so much for that. And they wanted to donate in honor of Megan Bowman, assistant news director, for winning the Edward R. Murrow Award.
Again, congrats to Megan.
Podcasting. Yeah. And, you mentioned those reporters, Ben. We bring them on from other outlets. They come in here, they talk about their reporting. We get to literally amplify their voice, their reporting, and connect it to some people who maybe didn't get a chance to read that. Maybe it was a paywall. They couldn't read it on the website. The WMNF website is 100% free. No barrier to entry. You show up, you read news, maybe you share it with a friend, and then you do it again, right? Rinse and repeat. And those reporters are in there every day just doing it. Talk about Chris Young in there. I mean, when the guy's in the room because he's the tallest guy in there.
Tallest man in the room.
And then you see his byline on so many things. He's in these rooms just covering municipal things, debates, and that only happens if people chip in.
And right? You have the opportunity today to help us strengthen that local journalism, make it better, make it more robust with a gift. Call us today, 813-239-9663, or go to WMNF.org.
A couple gifts I'll mention, then we'll go hear some more sound here. We've got a water bottle with a cooling towel and a phone stand, all of that for $88.50. You can get that by giving us a call right now. Also, Sean, we have a pocket fan, right, for $45. Because will that help you in this humidity, Sean? I don't know.
It would feel nice. I have to say.
Okay, so
I'll tell you what would help you is the hand crank, emergency hand crank radio. Right, Sean's got one. Sean, what does it sound like when you crank it? Can you hold it up to the mic?
All right.
There it is. Imagine that. You would never think that would be the sound that you want to hear, but when the power's out, right? It's hot in your house. The humidity's on. It's still raining outside. Your dog's begging to go outside. That's what you want to hear because you want to turn the radio on. You want to hear what the weather is. You want to hear a human voice. Yeah. And, something that a lot of people don't realize about MNF, it happened during the pandemic. It happens during these natural emergencies. There's a human inside of here, and they make sure that the station is running. They make sure that the people, during these emergencies, they read the media alerts out. And we really are, in that sense, a public service in the purest way. But that doesn't happen if people don't chip in, right? So we need to hear from you. 813-239-9663 if WMNF, if 88.5 FM is a special place for you on your radio dial. We'd love to hear from you right now.
Let's go to hear some more sound, and let's talk about abortion, Amendment 4, right? That has been huge all year long, election-wise. We've got this amendment. And by the way, guys, I was on actually CNN International this week talking about abortion. The Democrats had their big reproductive event down in Palm Beach County, Donald Trump's headquarters there on Tuesday. So we've been talking a lot about this, and during the show, the 6-week abortion law ban, if you will, has only been in effect since May 1st. So what's it like for folks who are on the ground here trying to help out people, help out young women who may, frankly, need an abortion? What I've learned is, in many cases, is that some people don't even know this law exists currently right now. So we interviewed Bree Wallace from the Tampa Bay Abortion Fund a couple of months ago to ask her what it's been like, this new law, especially for young women here in Florida.
Here's the weird thing. After a ban, it takes like a month or two for things to really change and people to realize that there is a ban, to realize that resources are out there. I think within like the next month, we'll see people who are maybe a little bit farther along, like 10 or 12 weeks, who just didn't know where to go in that time. But now it's more so, I have a lot of cases who will go out of state. So it's me talking on and off with them and just playing travel agent, booking a lot of flights, a lot of hotels, kind of making like itineraries for them. So kind of still the same, just a different aspect now of people leaving the state and not coming to this state.
And by the way, if you're just tuning in, joining us right now is Bree Wallace, Director of Case Management at Tampa Bay Abortion Fund. We're talking about the challenges of the work the fund does, especially in the light of this 6-week ban. If you go to the website, it says in big, bold letters, abortion is still legal in Florida. Can we talk about what that means and why that is so important to mention right now still?
Yes. So there is a 6-week ban, of course, but there are still people who are under 6 weeks who know that they are pregnant and get abortions done. So it's not like it's totally banned here. And I know a lot of people will call it like a near total abortion ban, which it is. I mean, a lot of people don't know that, but you can still get care here. And I mean, I care about our local clinics immensely. I love them and I would want nothing to happen to them. So I really try to make sure that people still go there and get abortions done, or even just get ultrasounds done, because you don't know how far along you are. So if you are 8 weeks, you're going to have to go out of state, but it's better to know than to not.
And last year, the fund helped with more than $650,000 in appointment costs, more than $67,000 in practical support. Those are those plane tickets, the hotel stays. 2,660 callers, including 303 who traveled out of their home state, as you mentioned. Just to kind of give a scale, does it still cost about $2,000 for an out-of-state abortion? And can you talk about whether or not the Tampa Bay Abortion Fund specifically has experienced this cooling effect in donations that similar orgs have described recently?
Yeah, so the $2,000, it really fluctuates. So the actual abortion cost is usually about $500 to $2,000 or $20,000, depending how far.
Really?
Yes. It can get up to $20,000, especially for people who are in like second or third trimester who are going to specific clinics. So it can get very expensive.
And you support those people too?
Yes.
Okay.
And when it does get that high, we work with other sibling funds within Florida or other states. We all pitch in a lot with each other and work very closely together. But really, a big thing that fluctuates is the price for traveling. So a lot of people, their appointment is the next week, and we all know getting flights within a week is very expensive. So that's kind of what does it, as well as hotels. So it really depends. I think I spent like $2,000 on 2 plane tickets and a hotel for like 2 days last week. So it's expensive.
So Florida doesn't have this mechanism to get medicine via telemedicine online, and that requires an ultrasound, as you had mentioned, meaning at least one clinic visit and 2 drugs, mifepristone, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and misoprostol. My nurse wife always makes fun of me because I never pronounce. Yeah. They've been in the news because the Supreme Court ruled unanimously to change nothing about the legal status.
Not yet, because those plaintiffs do not have standing.
Right.
So there's 3 states, I believe, that are still pursuing this. So this is very much not decided completely. Yeah, I mean, yesterday's case was.
So right now, those things are still out there, and your website has a good zine actually on SMA, self-managed abortions, and I know that's not really the thing that you guys do, but how do you guys talk about that when somebody approaches you with that at the fund?
Yeah, and I totally forgot to answer your last question about the cooling effect. Yes. We have been experiencing that, so sorry. Yeah, definitely donations.
Has it been dramatic?
Down. Yes. After Dobbs, we were getting like a few $100,000 in donations. We call it rage donations. And it's definitely calmed down through the years since it's not like in the public as much anymore and more issues have come up. It's an election year. So
is there a concern within your organization? Like, when do you hit the panic button?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, definitely within a few months of 6 weeks, we're going to have to like reassess and see what budget is looking like, and just continue doing fundraisers, applying for grants and things like that. But grants towards like abortion is not really a huge thing out there. So.
And what do you tell people who do ask you about SMAs, self-managed abortions?
Yes. So we don't technically really do much about SMA, but we do have a lot of resources that we send people. So like Plan C Pills is a great one for that. And then there's a few hotlines as well. So there's the MNA, which is Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline. And then there's also the If, When, How Repro Legal Helpline, which is very helpful because I mean, there are some legal issues that go around SMA and getting, abortion pills mailed to you in your home state if you're in a banned state.
Okay. And if
you're just tuning in right now to WMNF, you're listening to The Skinny here on 88.5 FM. We're fundraising here today. Our not really fall fundraiser yet. We're in the last weeks of summer here. I'm Mitch Perry, along with Ben Montgomery, Ray Roa, WMNF's news director Sean Canan. We're here asking for your financial help to keep this public radio station on the air. 45 years next week, WMNF will be celebrating its 45th birthday, and we've been doing it because of listener contributions from yourself. So if you haven't called in yet, you're thinking about doing it, we've got some great gifts to offer you, but also you'll have the joy of just helping out WMNF stay on the air for another year or so. 813-239-9663 is the telephone number for you to call right now. Show your support for the interview that we just had there with Bree Wallace and the Tampa Bay Abortion Fund.
I like how Bree put it too. Rage donations that they were accepting after Dobbs. We will take your rage donations.
And WMNF has a history of rage donations, right?
True.
WMNF has not been without that moment where they were almost off the air. Maybe a politician, this is a true story, right? Pulled all the funding and then the state funding comes out. And that hurts you. And the community responded. We don't want to be in that situation again. That's why we do these fund drives periodically. Mary emailed here. She said, tell people how your station started. And that's something we lose sight of when we sit here every week, right? Hyde Park, just a house. The music library was literally a bathtub. It was not a pretty house down there. And it is a crazy story because there was just a gang of people knocking on doors saying, do you think we should have a radio station? They would always ask people, what do you want in a community radio station? This radio station has always listened to its community, and the programming 24 hours a day, Live Humans, really always reflects that.
You know, I think the most interesting part of that whole story is that they were cold knocking on people's doors, going door to door, and there was enough trust in the people that said, yes, here's my donation of $50. They were donating to a radio station that didn't even exist yet. And so now that this station is here, it's strong, people know it, it will survive because people are making these donations. Now there's a little bit less faith that you have to put in the process. You know that your donation is going to go to keeping a radio station strong. It's not just this dream that we have maybe in 6 months or a year we'll have a radio station perhaps, but this is definitely, you know that there's a radio station with great shows like The Skinny, like Down and Dirty. We air Democracy Now! As well, are in your ear. All these great shows that are worth supporting with your financial contribution. So if you make that call right now, you can support that. 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org.
And there's that unique programming, right? It's not just news. You have these great news blocks in the afternoon, but, there's music. WMNF offers you music that you're not going to hear anywhere else. And we do have some concert tickets that we can give you. So let's start with WMNF's 5th annual Tom Petty tribute. Saturday, October 5th at Skipper Smokehouse. Local bands performing the best of Tom Petty, Mudcrutch, and the Heartbreakers. And I guarantee you, if you go to that show, it's $88.50. You'll get a pair of 2 tickets. You get a pair of tickets. It'll be at will call, and you start talking to people. You probably talk to somebody who saw Mudcrutch in a bar at Gainesville, and then you're going to figure out their history with the station, and you start to form these communities. It is a radio station that's on air and online, but they have so many community activations where you get to meet all the volunteers. I have an email here. You guys should do a tribute for Miss Julie. There's just so many people to love here, and they show up every day to work for the community. It's amazing. It's a really special place, but it doesn't happen.
But we need to get some calls, though, Ray.
813-239-9663.
You mentioned the tribute to Tom Petty, and that's on Saturday, October 5th, and that's when the weather hopefully starts cooling down. It definitely will by November 2nd, we're hoping. The Saturday before the general election, looking at it as that date, that's going to be WMNF's Ultimate Talking Heads tribute. Stop Making Sense. That's going to take place also at Skipper Smokehouse, an $88.50 contribution for 2 tickets to see all these local bands doing the great Talking Heads, the great band from the 70s, and I guess to the early 80s. I don't know when they actually officially broke up, but nevertheless, we'll bask in nostalgia hearing those songs. But we need to hear from you right now.
Can we thank somebody
Do we have anybody to thank?
Yeah, 813-239-9663. Please, as you hear this, thank you. David Bryant, $25 one-time contribution. Thank you, David. He says, I love The Skinny. It's like a news supergroup. The Traveling Wilburys of news. Man, I like that.
Which one is which, though?
That's right. You don't want any of us to sing. I appreciate WMNF's coverage of the New College, Florida debacle. And there's an expletive in here that I can't read on the air. And thank you, David. And that's what we're talking about. People want us to cover these things. They want us to talk about these things. We had Bree Wallace. She came on and really got in depth about the work that the Tampa Bay Abortion Fund does. And it changed the way that I
so
see
much from that conversation. It was a powerful, packed conversation. It's for 45 years, WMNF has empowered you to vote, choose, protest, and party. We're your long-standing source for informed citizenship and local activism. And in many ways, this show sort of gives you the platform from which to be active. As we celebrate our 45th birthday milestone, we renew our commitment to being your partner in democracy for decades to come. You can support us today by sending us a gift. Call us at 813-239-9663 or go to WMNF.org. And note on there, if you would, that you're donating during the skinny. That lets us know that those donations help support this program in particular and help reiterate that we deserve a spot here on the air.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's not guaranteed. You know, we're very fortunate to have this hour on the program. We've been doing it since January of last year, so...
Sean has to make hard decisions every day about what makes it on air. You know, the clock is a wonderful thing. There's only so much time in there, and Sean only has so much time. So, you know, I'm not in Sean's head, but I'm sure he's looking at things like this to say, is this a program that our listeners want? And we don't talk about this a lot on the air, but I think I hear it a lot in the community, the corporatocracy of things, you know, corporate overlords. You know, so many places have them now. Mitch is lucky to work at a nonprofit funded newsroom. I work for a for-profit, you know, company, and we don't got that here at WMNF. I mean, there are no corporate overlord would get a kick in the you-know-where coming in here. For 45 years, it's been that way. But it's through the scrappy nature of the community. It's not easy. You have to fight, and you have to make it happen for yourself. And it's just a beautiful example of everybody pitching in a little, and you get a lot done. 45 years is a really long time.
And it's really great to be here, again, representing the Tampa Bay area, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, Polk, Manatee, Sarasota, Hernando counties, all throughout this region here that have, again, been a big part of keeping the station on the air. And that's with the local news. We're public affairs officially here. We're doing the talk show here, really focusing on so many of the big issues that are going on in the state. And there's a lot going on, as you well know. You're obviously savvy enough, I do believe, WMNF listeners are. So we just need to hear from you again. Get a few more phone calls here. We've got about 20 minutes left to go here. 813-239-9663. Again, some great gifts, but more importantly, you give the gift of community radio to keep us on the air here.
You know what I like about so many of these shows on MNF? I don't think any programmers are trying to tell you how to feel. They're just giving you the information from which you base those decisions, right? You listen to a lot of radio and you feel led. Somebody is taking you by the bridle and leading you to what they've decided you should feel about a particular issue. Not here. We bring voices to the table, diverse voices, and get them to talk about what they know best. And then we let you, the listener, decide what you want to make of that. And you don't get that everywhere. You do get that here at WMNF. Call us with your support, 813-239-9663, or go to WMNF.org.
And picking up on that, Ben, let's go to our next sound. And that's going to be, we've been talking about, we mentioned Amendment 4, which is the abortion rights issue. Amendment 3, of course, would legalize recreational cannabis in Florida. That's also on the ballot in November. It's a huge issue. We've been following that a lot. There's been a rivalry this year between the hemp and cannabis community, with the hemp industry giving money to Governor Ron DeSantis and the Republican Party to help bring down the cannabis amendment. It's kind of twisted there, but it's true. So a couple months ago, I think this is back in July, we had a show and we talked about that. And here the sound you'll hear from hemp entrepreneur Carlos Hermida and Chris Cano from NORML, the National Organization for Reform of Marijuana Laws, talking about this issue.
The first time around, she was willing to speak to us. She was willing to, go in front of the media and say, hey, we're really here trying to help the businesses. But last year, she was just declined speaking to anybody about the subject, didn't really speak to any media about it. I'm not sure if you really spoke to her.
No, she's not. No. And then Tommy Gregory, who picked up the House, he was much, also Manatee, because last year was Will Robinson Jr., both Republicans from Manatee County. But this Tommy Gregory, I think, was a former prosecutor, and he's a tough guy. And he didn't want anything to do with this. He thinks that there was a mistake when this hemp got legalized in 2018. He says people should not be using this for medicine. It was a different tone this year up in Tallahassee, and so the bill did get passed this year, but it was a very close vote in the House. And then the question is, will Governor Ron DeSantis sign or veto it?
This is SB 16. $19.98, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And this would also eliminate Delta 8 outright. And of course,
it would eliminate a lot of CBD products as well. There's a thing called full spectrum CBD. It lives up to that 0.3% THC content. And the way the bill was written, I believe the compromise ended up being 5 milligrams per dose, 50 milligrams per packet.
Right.
And there's CBD tinctures and sublingual drops and certain products out there that don't even run the risk of getting you stoned that contain more than that, and it just became this incredibly restrictive thing that they were doing to us, and it was really a way to try to shut down the industry as a whole. Really, of the products in my shops that sell, that are on my shelves, about like 75% of my hemp products would have had to been taken down.
Wow.
So
this is your livelihood at stake in a way.
Yeah, we do try to diversify. We sell glass, we sell our mushroom products, but there's a lot of companies that in the state that manufacture CBD products that distribute hemp products, and there's a lot of stores that don't want to do everything that I do and focus just on that hemp side of things. Right. And those stores would have been screwed.
Right. And so the governor did, a couple Friday nights ago, did veto the bill. So
yes.
You must have been ecstatic about that.
I don't typically agree with Ron DeSantis on many things, but I am very thankful to the governor for seeing that there was a big corporate monopoly that was lobbying to get us.
Well, and
do we know why he vetoed this bill? His motivation?
Well, that's what I was kind of alluding to just there. The corporate cannabis system was the financial backers of these bills, and a lot of people suspect that they did that to try to get these competing markets out of the business before we vote for legalization in November. So the governor has noticed that these corporate oligopolies are flexing their financial power to try to eliminate, I believe it's the third largest business in this state at this point, the hemp industry.
Really?
I've heard that at some point. I don't have...
right. Well, there's Chris Cano from...
Yeah, I was wondering with Chris, how surprised were you at the veto, and how do you think this veto is going to play in this upcoming November election as far as Amendment 3 goes? Amendment 3 would allow adults 21 years or older to possess, purchase, or use marijuana products and marijuana accessories for non-medical consumption. I'm wondering about that, Chris.
Sure. Well, I think that Governor Ron DeSantis is looking for some type of way to beat the most popular issue on the ballot, and understanding that you don't have to win when it comes to ballot initiatives. You just have to deny the other side 40.00001% of the vote. So if he could just make sure that Amendment 3 doesn't get the 60% threshold that it needs, then that would be a victory, as far as him trying to defeat the amendment. The way it seems to be taking the approach is he believes that there's enough hemp businesses out there that they would spread enough, negative ire about the amendment to try and defeat it. And so he's creating this artificial division between cannabis consumers and the hemp industry. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, we can all agree no one likes the vertical integration in the state of Florida because it doesn't allow for better competition. It doesn't allow for better quality of products. And it's surprising.
Hey, Chris, excuse me. I think we should explain to our listeners, when you mentioned vertical integration, tell us what it's about.
In the state of Florida, if you want to be in the medical marijuana industry, you have to be entirely vertically integrated from seed to sale. You have to grow it, you have to distribute it, you have to cultivate it, you have to sell it all yourself, which makes it enormous when it comes to the price tag of getting into the medical marijuana industry. And then the limited number of licenses that we have in Florida. Initially, we were only going to have 5 licenses, and you had to be a nurseryman with a license that had been intact for 30 30 contiguous years. Because of different court rulings and such, we're now up to 23 licenses, including a black farmer, because, of course, if you go back far enough in Florida's history, you can see that black farmers weren't even allowed to hold nurseryman licenses. So, you have a system that was set up to be corrupt from the get-go, to pick a very few number of winners to be a part of it. And we've seen corruption in the system from, local city officials in Tallahassee going to jail for accepting contributions from the medical marijuana industry in order to corner the markets with local bans. We've seen, again, as Carlos touched on, the large multi-state medical marijuana operators proliferating this attack on hemp businesses across the country, whether it's in Florida or Maryland or Arizona. You even see the boilerplate talking points that they have with their own letterhead floating around in cyberspace.
And that was Chris Cano from NORML, the National Organization for Reform of Marijuana Laws. Also, Carlos Hermida from the hemp industry there. We're hearing an excerpt from an interview back in July. Hi, you're back. We're back live here in WNF on the Skinny 88.5 FM.
10 minutes left.
It's 10 minutes left to go. Is Ben Montgomery, Ray Rowe. I'm Mitch Perry with Sean Kinane. We are raising money here for WMNF for the Skinny. We have 10 minutes left to go. Our goal is $1,500. Sean, do you know where we're at roughly?
Yeah, I think we've raised almost, after we thank these people, we have raised almost $600. So we have less than, just over 900, I'm sorry, to go. So if we get if we get $1,000 donation, that would be fantastic.
Well, there are $1,000 for that $1,000 donation. You get a couple things actually. So it's absolutely realistic to see this happening. You get a People's Patio paver where your name will be enshrined here on the ground, basically here in WMNF. I've got one paver there on the grounds here at MLK. $1,000 contribution. By the way, you can do that in monthly payments. The Circle of Friends, we call it, $84 a month. Also, for $1,000, the event passport, for a whole year. You get 10 tickets to any MNF event. That could all be for one event. It could be for 10 different events, one ticket, 5 different for 2, obviously. $1,000. That's a lot of money to ask. And most of these contributions are much less than that in terms of what gifts we can offer you. But I want to go for the gold there, though, because we're like $900 short, and we're trying to get that $1,500 goal. Help us make it that goal here. We've got about 9 minutes left to do.
813-239-9663, WMNF.org. Want to thank some donation here, $50 from Lynn and John. We love listening to the show and are proud to call you our friends.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
The $25 donation here from Suzanne. She says, welcome back, Mitch. Love the show, alluding to Mitch's long history here at WMNF. Thank you, Suzanne. 813-239-9663 if you want to get in on this. We need $1,000 in about 8-9 minutes here.
And I've got a donation from Christina Frederick in the great island nation of Gulfport, Florida.
Yes.
Thanks so much for your $108 donation. Christina will get a 3-inch magnet for celebrating WMNF's 45th year.
And when we thank as well Linda Bragg from Newport Richey, $108 contribution, very generous. She's getting the 3-in-1 offer, which is the water bottle with a cooling towel and a phone stand for your cell phone. That is all available for $88.50. She contributed $108. Thank you for that, Linda. But for $88.50, you can get that as well. And we've also got, do we have another bundle? We got the People Power Pack. I haven't mentioned that.
I love the People Power Pack. It's like the WMNF fan club kit, you know? You get here, let's see, there is a limited edition bumper sticker. You get that 3-in-1 water bottle. You get the phone stand, a button, the mini fan, WMNF pen, and the car flag. So you're repping hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
Hardcore.
That's available for a $245 donation.
And that's just $245. We get 3 of those, I think we're there, right?
I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that we enjoy asking for your money. Really, it's not. I mean, it sometimes is fun in here in this week, but it's not super enjoyable coming and asking you to help support this radio station. I was just talking to my mother before we came in the studio today, and she said, "What guests are you having on this week?" And I said, "Oh, Mom, it's the fund drive." And she said, "Well, I already gave." She said, "Don't call me out on air." Well, Mom, we're pulling out all the stops.
Mom, we need you
Donna
to call
Burris,
your friends.
John Burris in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I know you tune in every week. Don't neglect this very important week. We only do this 3 times a year. We ask you to help sustain WMNF and all these diverse voices, the new music, the new ideas, the new perspectives. Help us make this radio station great.
And there's an army of volunteers back there all the time while we do this, and they need to eat.
They
and they're
do.
getting fed.
And thanks to our wonderful sponsor, our community partner here, Van from Avari Cups just dropped off some frozen treats for our volunteers to chill out. And they're located at 6844 North 50th Street in Tampa. So thank you to Van from Avari Cups. And thank you to you for your financial contributions. I want to see those phones light up. We have one person on the line right now. I hope that's a donation. That would be great. We still do need more people calling in. 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org.
Something we haven't talked about here as far as swag. There is a great new T-shirt. Every fund drive, there's a new swag, new T-shirt, new threads you can buy. This one is olive green. It's got the WMNF 45-year anniversary logo in black and yellow on the slogan. It's got the 45 adapter in there. It looks really cool. And it says radioactive for 45 years. The back of the T-shirt features the slogan, "You got to fight for your right to vote, choose, protest, and party." And I think if I could sum up the WMNF people, that is what they do, right? They party hard. They're very politically active, and they make their voice heard.
And actually, the T-shirt, the T-shirt is it's a checkbox, basically. And it reminds me, I'm writing the story about ranked choice voting, actually, and reminds me of that, where you get the candidates and you have to list them 1 through 4. So you have little these boxes here. You got to fight for your right to vote, choose, vote, right to choose, right to protest, and right to party. Anyway, it's a cool shirt, and as you say, Ray, every fundraising drive is a new one, and basically, I know people have gotten so many different ones.
Yeah, people have collections of these, and the thing is, it's a T-shirt. Yeah, it covers your chest if you need to go into the 7-Eleven, but it's also a statement.
It's a declaration,
right? It says that you care about this community, care enough to support this local radio station by calling and giving us your hard-earned money. Call 813-239-9663. In fact, if you have that number memorized, which many of us do, I know like 2 telephone numbers, my granny's in Slick, Oklahoma, and 813-239-9663 without looking. If you have that telephone number written on your heart, give us a call today and make a donation to this program.
Yeah, and the T-shirt's like an invitation to talk about WMNF. And listening back to the audio about Amendment 3, independent media now more than ever needs to work together. And I remember that conversation about Amendment 3 because I was on the hook for a story on that Monday after that Friday. And I remember downloading the audio, running it through my transcript. I ended up with a 1.5-page story that was really great, really balanced, had all these great voices, and we ran it in Creative Loafing Tampa Bay, only because I was here the Friday before, and we were able to bring in those guests, and it was something that we do, and that helps me sleep at night, right? Yeah. I get to come here, do some reporting, write about it, and share it with readers on at my day job, which I'm so grateful to have, and which I love. And if you support that kind of intermingling and codependence of independent media, independent voices, real news that isn't trying to tell you how to feel, and is just out there being reported by people in your community, we need to hear from you. 813-239-9663. We've got about 3 minutes left here before NPR News kicks us off the air. We need to hear from you.
Yeah, and hopefully it makes you more smarter, frankly. Hopefully we provide some intelligence there to help you out here. A couple more shows. We've been talking about some music, concerts tickets. I've got a couple of tickets here for some shows coming up here at Crowbar, actually. Quarters of Change is playing on Thursday night, September 26th. You get a pair for only $35, okay? Also, Dorian Electra on Sunday night, the 29th of September at Crowbar. 2 pairs. $50 donation. Oh, I'm sorry. 1 pair for $50. And also, we have a pair of tickets to Lawrence at Janice Land. Yeah, it's Janice Live, excuse me. $60 on September 27th. And also the WMNF Halloween Ball on Friday night, October 18th at the New World. That is a $50 contribution. A lot of gifts here, folks. The point is, as we've got 2.5 minutes left to go here, need to get some more phone calls, folks. We're desperately short, hundreds of dollars short of our goal now. Please help us get to that. 813-239-9663. Any dollar contribution would be very appreciated.
We still need to raise $914 in the next 2 minutes.
So we need a $1,000 donation. That would be great. Here. We need somebody to jump in there, get their name on the patio here at WMNF, and walk around for the rest of this weekend feeling really good about keeping WMNF alive here. 813-239-9663, WMNF.org.
A $1,000 donation also gets you the event passport, which gets you 10 tickets over the next year to get into any of these shows. $1,000 donation. Call us now. Save the day. Save the skinny. 813-239-9663.
And there's nothing better than having plans, right? Somebody calls you. They're like, you want to hang out? And maybe you don't want to hang out with them. And you're like, actually, I already got tickets to this WMNF thing. And I already have a +1. And I'll catch you on the next one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like that's what that's all about. And by the way, that Halloween ball, October 18th, there's going to be DJ Jet, Apollo Infinity there. Local, I'm going to say the D word, drag performers right there. Don't come for me, and that's going to happen. And it's just something that WMNF does automatically. There's always somebody in the building saying, how can we engage with the community in real life? And somebody has to plan that, right? And that only happens if people pitch in. We're looking for $1,000 contribution here, but maybe you could call in with $100 here. Get that T-shirt, 813-239-9663, WMNF.org.
All right, we've got a call there. Let's get a second call coming up. We'll get those lines going here again. The last minute and a half here to go, a little over a minute. Again, the birthday bundle next week, but folks, next week at the
Floridian
Social, formerly the State Theater in St. Pete, we'll be celebrating WMNF's 45th anniversary birthday. You can go tickets for that for $88.50 or go for $100. You can also get a license frame with that as well. You got to give us a call right now, though. The Skinny, we're in our last dying seconds here of the show here. 30 seconds ago, 813-239-9663. Please show the love for the Skinny.
813-239-9663. We want to finish with a bang. We hope to have some phone calls here right now. Show support for these three great journalists on the Skinny, and you can do that by calling 813-239-9663. Your phone bank volunteers will definitely answer any of the questions that you have, so call now.
Phone bank volunteers are the nicest people, and it's a reflection of what's happening here at WMNF.
All right, guys, we're in the last seconds here, man, so... Ray, you want to let us out here?
Thank you so much. On behalf of myself, Ben, Mitch, Sean, thank you so much for all the donations that we've heard. And please keep calling. We need to hear from you to keep this station alive.